Hi, my name is Jeff, and I have over 10 years of recruiting experience, including 5 years at Google. In this video, we're going to cover how to work with a recruiter. Let's just get down to the most basic items, and please stay tuned because if you follow through with these 5 items, you're going to have much better success working with recruiters. So let's dive right in. Item 1, make sure that you've identified the right person. I know this seems really basic, but simply put, there's a couple of items to think about. One, if you're networking in job search, just make sure if you're looking for an internship that you are looking for a university recruiter, right? That you're not just targeting any recruiter to find an internship. I would say that this is probably one of the biggest complaints, especially from corporate recruiters. Now, secondly, sometimes you get a recruiter and you realize, whoa, maybe this isn't the right person. So really make sure that you are telling the recruiter what types of roles you're interested in and making sure that they have those types of positions. And this is so critical because if you're not the right person for the recruiter, they're not going to follow up with you. They're not going to be a good partner or advocate for you. So just make sure right off the bat, hey, you're really focusing on finding the right person and or working with the right person. Item number 2, be honest about everything. I think a big one up front is how much money do you need to make, right? So if salary requirements come up, and they're going to come up, just make sure that if you need to make $60,000 a year or $100,000 a year, and really that's the number that you need to make at a minimum, that you are moving forward with that number, because if the number doesn't align, it's not going to make sense and you're not going to be happy and the recruiter's not going to be happy. I think also just be honest with how many other recruiters are you working with, what are the other companies you're interviewing for, and more importantly, what stage are you at with these other companies? If you're honest and you share with your recruiter and overshare, then you're going to create this really good partnership, this really good relationship. So just really be honest. One of my biggest complaints, I would say, is I'd be working with candidates and I would ask them if they were interviewing for any other jobs, and then 2 weeks later I found out they had an offer in hand and they weren't honest with me. And it put me in a really tough situation, and it didn't put them in a good situation either. So definitely be honest, and especially about the other companies you're chatting with. That's such a big one. Item number 3, over communicate. So this correlates really well with being honest, right? You are just going to over communicate with your recruiter and share everything, because if you're over communicating, especially in terms of reach outs, a complaint is always, I don't hear from my recruiter enough. So if you're over communicating, at least you can control that aspect. So a big one is definitely giving them updates on other jobs, but also kind of following up after the interview and saying, here's how it went. I really enjoyed talking with these people, over communicating about your experience, and then consistently following up. Is this and should this be the job of the recruiter? Absolutely, it should. But if you over communicate on your end and you're continually checking in, it shows a level of interest, engagement that's really good that not all candidates will show. So over communicate, whatever that means to you. Just make sure that you're always touching base and always keeping them in the know. That will create a really good advocacy and partnership. Item 4, ask great questions. This is just probably the most critical item in my list. If you're asking great questions, you are going to have much better results in working with your recruiter. So I'm going to post up above a video that I did, questions to ask an interviewer. These are questions that I've mentioned before, and I'll paste them in the YouTube description. Really, really important for success. Let's go over them really quickly. Position basics. You just want to know kind of why the position is open. Do you have one or multiple openings? How long has it been open? How many other people are interviewing? And why is your background a good fit? That will just kind of help determine, okay, this role really is the right role, or maybe it's not the right role. Maybe you need to be in front of a different position. The other basics are administrative, so kind of the need to know logistics, so confirming where the position is located. You definitely want to see if there are teams in other offices and other locations, if they're open or remote. This will just be something to know for the future. Does the job require travel? Salary range? that question likely won't be answered. So you'll just want to have an idea of a salary range or have a number in mind that they need to go and hit or be above. And then specific benefits you'll want to find out about: health, dental, 401k, PTO, sick time, free gym, free food, all that good stuff. Process. So you really want to find out more about the process. What are the steps that I'm going to have to take? How long is this process typically? Startups tend to move really fast, whereas Google, it would take on average 2 to 3 months, right? So just what is the average length of the process? How often will I hear back from you? Put some accountability in their shoes. And if they really kind of try and fluff over the answer to this question, it's, well, I really need to know because I have 3 or 4 other jobs that I'm looking at, and I just want to know how often I can hear back. They're probably not going to give you a definitive answer, but it's a great question to ask. A great follow-up question to ask is, will you be letting me know when you're out on vacation? They might not have thought about it. They might be going out on vacation next week and not even thought to tell you. So it's just a great question. And then if they are, and or they're not, but they have a backup person that they're going to mention, this is just great. It just, again, for accountability and keeping you in the loop and keeping you connected, great question to ask. Then you want to translate to the interview. These questions might come later. How many interviews will be conducted? What are the interview stages? Is it phone, video, on-site, multiple on-sites? Who is the final decision maker? Decision makers. Is the hiring manager the decision maker? Is the skip level manager the decision maker? Is there a hiring committee? Is there an executive committee, etc.? And then what topics will be covered in the interview? Probably the most critical question, right? You really want to know what's going to be domain versus behavioral, etc. Lastly, 2 quick important items, and a good segue on the domain piece is typically recruiters, they're not domain experts, especially for more technical roles. So you really want to be asking, hey, I would love to ask you some technical questions. I know you might not be able to answer all of them. Please let me know if these are better questions to ask the interviewer. And then the real last question is, what question didn't I ask that other candidates are asking? What that might uncover is that there's something specifically that candidates are asking about this specific role, or just a generic question that you missed. Item 5, be gracious and kind. This is a theme in all my videos, but if you're nice, if you're very thankful during the process, that recruiter is going to be more likely to get back to you, more likely to work with you, and it's just going to be a great relationship. And just understand that recruiting is a real grindy job. Typically, recruiters are working 10, 12-hour days. It's one of those jobs where you can always be working. So just when you're working with recruiters, if you're really gracious and kind and understand how important their time is, it will just foster a great relationship. Some of these items seem pretty obvious, but these 5 items, if you just focused on these 5 items in every recruiter relationship, I guarantee that you'd feel more confident and more comfortable working with recruiters, and ultimately you'd have better results. Thanks so much. I hope this helps. Take care.